my observations in my life. What's William Blake's line? Wisdom through excess. You know, it's a hell of a line, that, and obviously a very dangerous ethos, but there is this idea too that I think is right, that, you know, especially when you're young, you have to throw yourself into excess to some degree, partly because how in the world are you going to find out where the actual boundaries are? We know from the psychological literature, for example, that like adolescents tend to do such things as shoplifting and break rules of that sort. You might say, well, is shoplifting, minor shoplifting, in and of itself a mark of pathology? And we'd certainly say, well, it's socially destabilizing and shouldn't be encouraged. But if you look at the outcomes, imagine there's two groups of adolescents, three. They break rules some of the time, that's one group. They never break rules, and they always break rules. Well, in the they always break rule categories, that's the antisocial types, childhood conduct disorder, the juvenile delinquents that become criminal. They're just breaking rules nonstop. 1% of the criminals manage 65% of the criminal activity, right? People specialize in antisocial behavior. It's typical Pareto distribution. A tiny proportion of the people are doing all the creative work. Applies to criminality, just like it applies to the distribution of income. So breaking rules all the time, yeah, that's not such a good idea. It's not going to work out well for you, because your life won't go well if you're criminal, especially if you're stupidly criminal. And it's very hard to be criminal and not stupidly criminal, because it's not an ethos that endears you to others, and it's not a good long-term strategy. And so too much rule breaking, that's not good. But then if you look in the population of teenagers that never break rules, and more teenagers are in that category now. They don't date, they don't have any early sexual experiences, they don't drink, they don't get their driver's license, right? They're very constrained and obedient. You think, well, great, they're disciplined. They're not. They're just constrained and obedient. That's not disciplined. That's not the same thing. And so what you see in the group of young people who never break rules, much higher rates of depression and anxiety, right? Because it's not that they're moral, it's that they're cowardly and inhibited and infantile. And Nietzsche actually did a lovely job of differentiating this, and I think we'll probably run across it when we go through Beyond Good and Evil. One of the questions he brought up consistently about morality is like, are you moral, or are you just too cowardly to break the rules? And worse, maybe you're just too cowardly to break the rules, and you don't want to admit that, and so what you do is claim that your cowardice is actually evidence of your morality. That would be the sort of person who would shoplift in a riot, right? Because there's no real internal morality. There's actually only fear of the consequences. And then so when the consequences are lifted, someone like that will run riot when they have the opportunity. And so one of Nietzsche's questions of conscience, if I remember correctly, and I think that was in Twilight of the Idols, is as, well, are you intimidated into obedience, or are you a moral agent? And that's a very good thing to ask yourself whenever you think you're acting morally.